て格好しているんだ。まだ恋も結んでいない貴族の娘がニダラに肌を晒して。
ニダラってもともと言えばあなたたちが戦い始めたせいでしょ。
Wistoria Wand and Sword episode number 6. Now, here's the thing, my friend, is I in no way, shape, or form, like, I definitely think, without a doubt, Wistoria Wand and Sword takes the crown for best animation of the season so far. I just think that the way that they delicately and intricately have Will just jumping and doing all kinds of crazy stuff everywhere, it genuinely does remind me of Danmachi, to where like when they turn it up to 11 and they have those fight scenes, like it's just like the pen to the pad, like the papers and stuff, like the way that they animate this, it's just like, it's just next level. So, like, to me, I think Wistoria Wand and Sword takes the crown for best animation of the season. Like, it is just beautiful to watch. And partially, that's what really keeps me engaged, is, like, for the most part, every episode has had some kind of balls-to-the-wall moment to where you're just like, oh my god, like, Jesus, like, that's a awesome moment right here. Now, with episode number 6... I think everyone's going to fall on two sides of the coin for this episode. One is you don't really think too deeply. And to be very clear about this statement, that doesn't mean anything upon you as a person or viewer or anime watcher or whatever. I just think that we all watch and enjoy and watch anime differently. And there's a lot of anime to where a lot of people just, subconsciously kind of turn your brain off. You just kind of watch it. You don't really think too deeply about anything because maybe the anime that you're watching doesn't really require you to think too deeply about it. It's not really there to, test our brain cells for the day. It's just there for our enjoyment. The other portion of the viewer base, I think, is ones that you're always thinking deeply. Even if the show doesn't necessarily call for it, you're wondering, you're always asking questions, you're always asking why. Like, okay, if character does this, but why? What's driving him or her to do this? If this happens, what caused that to happen? If the world's in a certain state, well, what happened to get the world to this state? If something else happens, well, what happened there to do this and this and that? If some character shows up, like, okay, well, where are they actually from? And I think that there's just two different types of viewers, and maybe there's even like a middle ground there. Like, I'm sure there's someone who can kind of like, who can do both, And I think maybe a lot of us can be like that chameleon depending on our enjoyment level of the show and stuff. But I think it's perfectly natural to do one, which is just, just watch, be entertained, and be like, that was cool, and just move on to the next thing. I think there's other, there's a total case to always wonder, why, and always like be, expecting like more context out of when a story says, oh, well, how can a vending machine be cognizant? You know what I mean? Like, well, how does that happen? Why does his girlfriend just live in the tower and never comes to see him? Does she even really like him? She has a bunch of plushies about him, and watches him from afar, apparently, but she never comes to say hi. But why? Aren't you worried that Colette's going to steal him from you? So it's like, it's like all these things that most authors, I think, the really exceptional, masterful ones will give you those context clues as you get there. And the other set, they're just building stories, and they're doing just enough. They are your average office worker who happens to be a manga creator. And they just kind of write stuff, and they're just like, oh, well, we'll figure it out as we go. So anyways, let's talk about episode number 6. I know I've diddle-daddled for a while. The reason I say that is one of the things I hate the most in anime is flashbacks. And probably 90% of the time, I hate them. 10% of the time, I think it's that masterful author, masterful creator, to where like they really, really show me something, and I'm like, oh, wow, that excelled, that accentuated, that provided so much more to the story. But 90% of the time, it's just a nothing burger, and it's just a waste of time to fill minutes within the show. And in episode 6, I think there was one flashback that provided us context to why Sion really, really hates Will. And that's the fact that he, in his mind, extended a hand out to Will in the most dickish way ever. But regardless, in his mind, he extended a hand out to Will, and Will basically went, I don't need you. Get the fuck away from me. And in that moment, he has never let it go. And then his next portion of it is the fact that Will just keeps burrowing forward no matter what. And both of those things combined just drives him insane to the point of kind of like obsessive. He's obsessively mad. I do think that Sion can be redeemed. I do think that Colette is for sure his kryptonite. I do think that there's something there. But then what this episode did was the anime they just crossed us. They just did the most annoying thing is they showed Will getting bullied, and they showed it again, and then like, and the next scene happens, he's like, I remember when they used to hit my books away, and it's like, oh my god, just fucking keep going. It doesn't accentuate, it doesn't elevate the show. It's a stopgap to waste more time, waste more airtime. And I hate it. We all know bully, he's been bullied. We all know that he's had a shit time. We all know that all the kids hate him. But they don't need to keep flashing back to that. And then they flash back to the same scenes. I think we saw, 4 times, maybe 3 times, 3 or 4 times, we saw his little, kick me sign get burned away. Like, that's too much. So it just kind of drives me crazy. And it really does. Like, if I had the anime here, it takes it down. Like, I'm just like, you can, after you watch so much anime, it's like, you can just tell the tricks of the trade, and you're just like, man, this sucks. Like, they're just filling time. And I get it. When you're watching Fairy Tail, when you're watching One Piece, when you're watching My Hero, when you're watching Dragon Ball, when you're watching Pokemon, I get Doraemon. When you're watching these like anime, they're gonna be here for the next 10 years, and they just go and go and go, and hundreds and hundreds and 105 episodes, 108 episodes, 146 episodes, 100 202nd episode. I get it, but when you have these short stories that all the source material equates to 12, 11, 13, 24 episodes at the most, when they just drag it out, man, it just really, really sticks me. And I just kind of hate it, So it's like, man, it's like, don't give us all the fluff. Just, if the source material only equates to a tight 10 episodes, give us that really awesome 9 out of 10, 9, 10 episodes. You don't need to drag it to the 14. I get why they do it, money. Period. The end, really. And they want to drag it out because they're like, well, if we drag this out, maybe we get a season 2. Maybe we get more money for a season 2, and then we can put all the stuff that we, all the in between stuff, we can just throw that into season 2. But more often than not, the animes just go away, and we never see a season 2. And then maybe manga and their light novels sell a little bit more. So, anyways, this episode though, really nothing burger. If you think about it. Julius showed up. Nothing happened with him. Julius created a bunch of clones everywhere out of ice. A bunch of kids fought him. Apparently, he created ice clones in 12 areas. And he's the first one to land inside of the stadium. The reason his buddies weren't with them is because they were with the real Julius. We don't see the other, 10 fights that occur with Julius. We see the elf take him down. And apparently, Colette took him down as well. We didn't see Colette's fight, but she got just mangled. He ended up fighting Sion the whole episode for the most part. And we see that Sion has definitely improved and gotten stronger. But at the end of the day, Will is so much more strong, is so much stronger than he is, that Will was just dragging it out the whole entire time because he didn't want to hurt Sion. But Sion was going balls to the wall. But we've already seen the fact that our boy Will could take on this disastrous golem thing in the dungeon. But then Sion, he just couldn't do anything. He couldn't scratch this thing. So even if he did get 10, 20% better, he still wouldn't be able to scratch the thing. So we know that the disparity between Will and Sion is really large. So all this was just for show. So we know it's for naught. We know that it's just for runtime and for the relationship, to show us eventually when Sion comes around to being Will's friend, and his dick up his ass gets taken out. And then we had the stuff where Colette, finally steps in at the pinnacle, at the peak of their fight, where Will had electricity coming out of his eyes. Colette comes in and she puts a wall between them, and she's like, "You stop, you stupid Bah, 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 bah. And Will, you know, she's all mangled and stuff, and Will puts his little jacket on her, and she, she's gonna have to be part of his harem. What is he gonna do about it? He can't just go up to the top with homegirls. He can't leave 𝐒𝐻𝐿'𝑒 behind, right? You know what I mean? He can't leave her behind. Like she's like she'll follow him anywhere. So, that happens, and then he finally shows up at the stadium to, fight me, Julius. And then that happened. So really, if you just take there's maybe 4 moments in the episode to where I could tell you okay, Julius shows up, he creates clones, everyone beats the clones, Julius gets to the stadium first. Sion and Will's fight amounts to nothing. 𝐒𝐻𝐿'e comes in between them. 𝐒𝐻𝐿'e sets Sion straight. Will follows Julius to the stadium, shows up and says, "Fight me." What did that take me? 13 seconds to tell you that? That's all that happened this episode. So I'll leave you guys on those thoughts. I went way too long just ranting this episode. Hope you guys enjoy this kind of stuff. If you don't, tell me you hate the rants and stuff in the comments below, and I'll remove it. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Peace.